Hey everyone, welcome to the Findem Academy. We'll let a few more people join in before we get started. Just wanted to let you know you're in the right place. All right, I think we've got a good group in the room now, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to our first Findem Academy workshop. I'm Karen Hankey, editor of the shortlist, and here at Strategic Marketing at Findem. So I'm so excited to see all of you here today. It's been really fun for the team to watch the RSVP list grow as all these names kept coming in. I kept saying, hey, guess who's coming now? Guess who's coming now? So super excited that all of you could join. What really excites me about this is that we value your insights just as much as we're excited to share our perspective on AI and recruiting. So we want to make this as interactive as possible. You know, this is about learning from each other and creating a community as much as it is learning from Findem. So if you haven't already done so, please go into the chat, say hello, say where you're from, and let's get to know each other. A couple of ground rules just to get us started. Please keep in mind, this is the first of 3 sessions. We have a leadership track and a practitioner track. So for those of you who are able to join us for all 3 of your sessions and complete a short assessment, we will have a certification badge for you. So excited about that for AI and recruiting. And today we'll be going over some essential content. Next week is hands-on for practitioners, where Lauren and Matt, who are on the call today, will be showing you how to actually get into Findem and use some of these Gen AI features. And then the following week after that is a discussion for the leaders around responsible AI and best case use cases. Let's see, then we come back together and we have a power user panel where we'll hear from some of the people actually putting these tools to the test and what they're doing in order to have this, make this change happen. Also, please note that we are recording this first session. We understand there were a number of people who didn't have it on their calendar today. So we'll share it only with registered participants, however. And the interactive sessions in the next 3 sessions will be only available live. So please kind of keep that in mind on your calendars. Great. And now that we're through with that, I'd really like to introduce the Findem team. So from Findem, we have Matt Kubala, who many of you may know from our Findem Live series. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Karen. It's great to be here, and everyone here, it looks like there's some familiar faces. My name's Matt Kubala. I'm the Director of Professional Services here at Findem, and thank you for everyone that's interested in here. In AI, it's been a very interesting topic and an interesting year that Findem's been going through, and we have a lot of learnings to share and looking forward to the collaborative sessions.
Great. And also on the call, we have Lauren Kanata, and she's been helping our customers be successful on Findem for, I think, 2 years, or is that
3
right?
years, coming up on 3 years next month. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Kanata. I'm on the post-sales team leading learning and development and enablement here at Findem. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone more closely next week and working together for the one-on-one sessions.
Great. And you'll also, after this call, we'll be sending out an email with some links to Findem Academy, where there are some videos for those of you who are going to be using the tool. And that's all the work of Lauren. So thank you. At this point, I'd really like to welcome our host, Grant Weinberg from Icon Therapeutics. And Grant actually came to Findem and said, hey, I think this would be a great idea to develop this workshop for users. So I'd love to have Grant. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why we're here today?
Sure. Thanks, Karen, and thank you to the Findem team and to all of those that are on the line. I see some people as far away as Spain. So, hola, ¿qué pasa? Nice to have you on board. I'm the reason you're all here. So at the end of this, you're either going to love me or you're going to hate me. The reason we are here today is, AI became a big thing in 2023. And I remember driving back from a networking event in February 23 with an ex-boss of mine. And he turned to me and said, hey, have you used ChatGPT yet? And I said, no. And he said, oh my God, this thing is unbelievable. Anyway, I went home, I downloaded it, I managed to get onto the free version. And so, from that point onward, I've been sold on the fact that AI is there to enable us to be faster, more accurate, less bias, all the good things that we look for. And so as you think about what's in it for me, my opening statement to Hari, the CEO of Findem, when I suggested the workshop is I said, the biggest challenge we have with these kinds of tools is the adoption of those tools. And the reason behind that is recruiters are under great pressure to deliver results in a short space of time with many tools, some of them properly integrated, not all of them optimized. And now we're asking them to put all of that to one side in quite a precarious market and learn a new tool, right? And just switch from what they're used to using to a tool like Findem. And I said, we as the industry and as TA leadership have to do a lot more around how we enable people to use these tools and get comfortable with them. I'll put my hand up. You're going to get to the two things that are guaranteed. One, you're going to learn a little more about AI and 3D data modeling. But, there is no secret that the ability to use Findem requires a higher skill set. And so we want to make you, whether you are currently in a job or you're in transition between jobs, we want to make you the most in-demand recruiters today, tomorrow, and the day after that. And so that's, for me, what's in it for you and why we're here today. So thank you, Karen.
Great. Well, thank you all. And I see the chat is bumping up and, again, feel free to turn your cameras on and we want to see your faces and share this with you. So let's go ahead and get started with a quick agenda about what we're going to do today. We've got the welcome. We just went through that. We'll look a little bit. Thank you to everyone who filled out the pre-event survey. We'll share those results so you have a sense of who else is here and what we're all looking for. And then turn it back over to Grant to talk a bit about the challenge and unlocking that potential that we talked about with AI. And then Matt is going to walk us through a little bit of, kind of one approach to AI that we're using with Findem and a little walkthrough of the product. And then we'll wrap up with some next steps. So is everybody ready to get going? Awesome. So who's in the room today? Well, we did that survey. Thank you for filling it out. About almost 100% of folks here said that the reason you're here is to expand your knowledge of AI recruiting. Super excited to hear that. In addition to what we'll do today, we've got resources that we can share with you. Via email. We've set up a LinkedIn community group to share when we're not in these sessions, but we're all learning right now. And so this is an exciting time to be figuring out the future of this technology. I think also a good portion of you are here for professional and career development. And I think even those of us at Findem, that's what we're also excited about. I know that as a marketer, I know that AI and Gen AI are going to be really integral to this role going forward. So I'm here for that reason as well. So why are you excited about AI? And the top two reasons that came across were scaling recruiting activities and then also your own professional career development. So I thought that was super interesting. And then in terms of what people are concerned about with AI, half of you responded that depersonalization was probably the biggest concern, followed by trust in the results and compliance. So Grant, did you have any thoughts about this outcome? Does this kind of sound familiar to what you're seeing and hearing from colleagues in the marketplace?
Yeah, I don't, I don't see any of this data not stacking up. There's one that, theme that I didn't see here is what I think has been top of mind for a lot of people in talent acquisition and broader HR is, when is the bot coming to take my job? And what you'll learn today, and to be very clear, the purpose of this workshop, yes, it's being supported by Findem, but we really want to get you conversant and comfortable with AI, and whether that be in Findem, which would be great, or any other tool. You might be using a different tool at your place, but having a greater understanding of these tools. None of us are software engineers. We've never built, I've never built, and I'm sure most of you on this call haven't built technology. And so, when you are a non-practitioner building a tool for a practitioner, this is second nature to you. And when you are the practitioner, inheriting the tool, it gets uncomfortable. And that's fine. If you're uncomfortable over the next 3 sessions, that means you're growing and you're learning. And so every time your toes curl, just go, you're taking one step further to being more accomplished. So, I think pretty consistent, yeah.
Great. And then just, I think in terms of adoption, sort of, we asked this question about where is your organization in terms of adoption? And we created this scale to kind of try to capture all the different areas where people might be. So first, at one end is no sanctioned use of AI. And of course, this might mean that lots of people are using it individually, but there's nothing sanctioned, no official word on it. Then the next level, I would say, of maturation is maturity is that you're using AI in available and existing technologies. Then the next level would be integrating new AI tech into your tech stack. And then we've got this other category of AI first consideration of new tech. So maybe this is where, when you're looking at and evaluating new technology for your tech stack, you're really saying, look, if it doesn't have AI, then we're not going to consider it. So no one fell into that category. And then finally, no dedicated policy for AI. Oh, I'm sorry. The no sanctioned use is where, you're actually saying, hey, do not use AI. The no dedicated policy would be where it's a little bit of a free-for-all, and people may or may not be using it in their own ways. So thank you for filling this out. I think we'll come back to this again in our responsible use and our best use cases discussion. I think it's an important framework for us to have.
And Karen, just one comment on that. I think it's fair to say that the biggest threat is not the bots, but it's compliance departments that are going to be reacting to unmanaged usage and associated risk with the tool. So, we will touch through the 3 sessions on responsible use of any of these tools. And so, as long as we are carrying the flag for that, I think we will march in the right direction and get supported as we bring these tools into play.
Great. And again, please feel free to ask questions in the chat or even chime in, raise your hand if you've got a comment that you'd like to share. So before I turn it over, I do want to also give you a few definitions because, AI is being used in a lot of different ways. And I want to make sure as a group, we're kind of all on the same page here. So technically, artificial intelligence is the ability for a machine to solve problems the way the human brain does. And, if you talk to people who are true AI technologists, we're not there yet. We're far from it. So I think it's important to have that in mind, that sort of the really specific theoretical idea of artificial intelligence is probably not what most people are talking about today. Yes, and please go ahead and put the LinkedIn group in the chat. That's perfectly fine. We'd love to have you all join there. So what most people are talking about when they talk about artificial intelligence is really machine learning. And so that's the algorithms that are trained to make classifications and uncover insights from the data. So machine learning is, a lot of what we do today. It's how recommendations come to us on Netflix. It's how our, apps on our phone tell us what to do next. So it's in place in a lot of the tools we use today. The next level of machine learning is really deep learning, where it's neural networks. It's a different way of applying and connecting the dots, and it's more like the way the brain works. What's significant here is that you're able to understand much larger data sets, really high volumes, and of unstructured data. So that's data that's not tagged in any way. It's data that just is in a data lake. You don't know if this is a job title, if it's a person's name, if it's a company name. So all that data is mixed together, and deep learning uses neural networks to figure out what it is and what it means. So what people are actually talking about now in terms of AI is generally generative AI. And generative AI is where you're creating something brand new. It's not just showing you a result like a Google search. And it's using deep learning to do that really deep analysis of massive data sets and create something that's new and statistically probable. So, we see that there are mistakes in what the generative AI comes up with, and that's because it's probably true. And the key point here is that you've got to have a human in the loop, particularly when it comes to HR. So those are our definitions. There, we can go deeper on these. We'll share a link for deeper dive into these, but just wanted to make sure everybody had this as their starting place. Sound good? All right. Okay, so over to you, Grant, to talk a little bit about unlocking this potential for recruiting.
Sure. So thanks, Karen. I think we've got to look at what is the power versus the risk of these tools and technologies. And recruiting has always had, I break out the recruiter role into 5 facets. I'm sure there's many more we can include in there. But when you think about what a recruiter has to do, a lot of our tasks are kind of manual tasks that require us to sit and repeat the same exercise over and over again. And so when you do that, 1, it's the inconsistency, 2, it's the scale, the time, etc. And so, when we find tools like Findem, the first tool 5 years ago, 6 years ago that I used, was literally using AI to kind of match up, here's the job description. It would take out the key points of the job description and then match candidates to that. And, we've now evolved to these tools doing a lot more, right? You can calibrate the role in the system. You can identify candidates. You can use the different filters to find those candidates. And so all of that is super exciting, and it's the power to allow recruiters to do what they're good at, right? So that's relationship building, coaching, mentoring, negotiating, providing that experience, that preferential experience for all stakeholders in the process, and then allowing the machine to do the stuff like research, right? So when I go home at 6 o'clock at night, I could have a tool like Findem working all the way through to when I come in the next morning, and I'll walk in and it's populated the talent pipelines. So I think we look at that, we look at insights, right? And then we look at, do we have warm talent all the way through to cold talent? What are the different groups? And tools like Findem have got very specific around how you can search those groups, not to create unfair practices, but really, I would rather focus on talent that is already engaged and educated on Python than I would, going to the market and having to spend extra time doing that. Not saying that I wouldn't, just saying that there's ways of accelerating this. So many of us are what I call AI immigrants. We haven't necessarily grown up. We've grown accustomed to this level of automation. Karen mentioned a few of the different tools. But let's think what got us here, right? The first big evolution in recruiting was LinkedIn, right? All of a sudden you could connect and find people, and it replaced everything from stealing, corporate registers or trying to figure out the phone system. All those things went by the wayside. And so, tools like LinkedIn and Indeed have evolved over time, and they've moved with the technology, but not at the speed at which AI and generative AI is coming into the mix. And today these tools provide you with a 3D data model. So when was what company was the person at, where, at what time frame, and who is it, right? And then being able to do multiple data point validations to validate that person is the right fit for the role that you're recruiting for. It also allows you to identify people who are connected with them. So there's a lot of this automation and co-piloting to help recruiters be more efficient. And as my 14-year-old said to me, Dad, you've got to learn to work smarter, not harder. And I think this generation get it because they don't have to set an alarm clock. They just tell Siri to do it. So
my son does that too.
Yeah, exactly. So what is the change management that comes about here? So recruiters, it's changing from doing all the work to commanding and prompting the tool to do the work, and then using your skills, knowledge, experience, and EQ to really vet out what is the right selection of talent for your needs. TA operations, they are, and that group is probably someone we have thought about second, not first. And I'm glad we brought them into the fold, because a lot of the times your TA operations and TA enablement teams are there to help the recruiters, especially when there's system updates or feature changes, things like that. And so it's critical that we get that community up to speed to understand how to enable the rest of us. TA leaders, I myself am one of these that we believe in the tech. We get carried away in the 6 months of being courted by companies like Findem. We get completely sold on, this is going to transform recruiting. But at the end of the day, we don't do a very good job of taking the frontline users of these tools along on that journey to get them as comfortable. And so I've done 2 implementations of these AI tools. The first one I took the whole company on the journey, and that was a 9-month implementation and huge adoption. I came to Icon with that same mindset, thinking I've done this, everybody should just, cuddle around it and get comfortable. And my team were very honest with me and said, I don't think this is meeting our needs as well as other tools. And so we got closer to Findem as our partner, and have really worked with them, and they've been great at helping us unlock that potential, both in the tool, but also in the change management of the recruiters. So, there's a lot of change coming. I mentioned getting uncomfortable is a way of learning. So look at it that way, and it won't feel as uncomfortable, but also know how much better you're going to get. I've not had to write a job description in the last 12, 14, call it 12 months. I've not had to write a policy. I've not had to write a strategy document. I've had the power of AI doing that for me and giving me the materials to then polish up, make it my own and present. And so I believe I've got better and faster because of this technology and tools I find. So thanks, Karen. Long explanation of today's challenge.
Great. I think you're setting us up for some really important discussions ahead on that day. I think I wanted to share this slide, these stats, because I think this is super interesting. It's a study by Valoir done in 2023, where they asked 1,000 workers around the globe. So this is a global study, whether they were using AI in their job. And almost a little over 75% of HR workers who responded said that they were using AI. So I think it's just important here to realize that it's here and people are using it. One session I attended talked about how like that's the individual use and it may be making single individuals more productive. So what we want to talk about here is how do we get this leveraged across teams, across groups to really raise the bar for groups of people instead of just one or two. I'm going to kind of move us along here. I think the other piece I wanted to note was that Gen AI is making its way into core tools. So I think we're all using Gen AI today in one way or another. It's becoming part of Microsoft Office suite. Their Copilot is being added in the G Suite. In their demo of their Copilot, they show how to write a sales job description. That was actually in the demo for the G Suite. And even in social media, you're seeing like, hey, help me write my job title. So we're seeing it incorporated in all these big tools. And I think that's just an indicator that it's here to stay and it's coming. And so it's really important for us to be having the conversation now. So Grant, as an HR, a talent leader, does this Grant quote from Gartner ring true to you?
Totally, it does. Because if organizations don't adopt and implement, they're going to lag behind, and it's going to be every new company, a new solution, a new platform that is coming out has all got this generative AI built into it, or some sort of large language model. And so HR has notoriously not been as cutting edge around technology, and we have been at the mercy of the organization, right? The sales org get Salesforce or whatever it is, and you beg and you wait and you get delayed until you get your technology. Starting with that point that we are not technology-led, we're technology-enabled, the quicker we all adopt this, the better we get to that enabled piece.
Right. And I think we talked a little bit about this concept of AI. It's really about being access to data. So I think if we talk about this implementation, what does that mean from a recruiting perspective in terms of data? And what we've been talking about for a while at Findem is this concept of 3D data, and that it can really give you this more holistic view where you've got this whole universe of data. If you think about it, all the things that exist out in the world today, not just about the people you're trying to recruit or going after, or people within your own company, but how they're related to other people, how they're, you've got this information about companies, valuations, earnings reports, press releases, all those are data points. And when you just look at talent from this perspective of a resume or a single profile, you're just seeing this tiny slice of information that you're trying to make these really big decisions about. And I think we did that because we had to do that. What other way how else are you going to find all this data? And now with 3D data and AI, we're really seeing that we can get at this scale of analyzing and uncovering those insights by applying that AI to it. So 3D data is using that icon, the deep learning to really connect those journeys, the journey of the company and the journey of the person together, so that you can find where that intersects and see how that would intersect with your own company journey. And then Gen AI is used to query that 3D data. So when you're querying the factual data, you get factual data back. So that's a little bit about what we mean by 3D data and why we believe that it will give you a much more holistic view of a person and how they fit with your company. And Grant, let's see, I'm keeping an eye on the time. Maybe say a little bit about what this access to data means for ICON, because I know you have some pretty particular research needs when it comes to looking for talent and validating talent there.
Yeah. So I'm going to be brutal and start by saying the 1D data is unvalidated and the 3D data is validated. And so if you're trying to work out which, and just being transparent, is it LinkedIn on the left and a tool like Findem or one of the others in the market on the right? That's correct, right? We have got static data that is not real time on the one side, and we have real time data. So what does that mean for us at ICON? So we expect to hire scientific folks that understand software, whether it's coding, automation, things like that. And we expect our engineering folks to understand the science, because when they're building these models, they're building it for a particular process of single molecule tracking, tagging the proteins in the cell, etc. And so we now have that ability to drill down through the calibration and say, find me a software engineer, and I'll keep this very simple. But you'll see when we get to demo the tool and you start using it, we'll put in that search of a scientific profile, but then we will try and validate whether they've got an engineering bias and vice versa. And that is just not possible without a huge amount of time, very labor intensive, and requires a human who gets tired, right? We all get tired and we're all getting inconsistent. And so 3D data coupled with the power of the analysis, has been a game changer for us in identifying those profiles or not, right? Manager asks for somebody, one-eyed purple squirrel. We now have real validated data. We don't have to go and hope that the manager doesn't ask you a question about the data. You can go and have as many questions asked. And in fact, you'll see with Findem, you can just ask Findem to answer those questions if you really want to use the power of the tool. So let's go.
Well, that's kind of the technology piece of it. But I think what's really important to us here is the human side of it. And so we can talk a lot about what the technology can do for us, how it can give us access at scale to that data. But what does the AI do for the human? I think I really appreciated your comments about the complexity of the role of the recruiter these days.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I've thought about for a long time, right? I am very sympathetic to the talent acquisition industry that recruiters are brought in on individual contributor levels within the organization, and are expected to be mastering research, marketing, sales, experience analytics, and I can throw others in there, right? Communication, collaboration, being consultative, coach, advisor, negotiator, educator. I mean, the list goes on. There's no single role that I've come across in the recruiting, in the corporate world that is and so there's no single role in the organization that is as complex as the recruiter role. And so up until now, we've had to try and find people that are able to do all 5 of these or more, as I shared. And so, you would find people who are very good at the research. So what did you do? You moved them into a sourcing role. You had others that were really good at that marketing and sales. And so you would have them as your frontline volume recruiters. You had others that were good with, the overall experience or one of the data and analytics. And so, they would maybe fit more into an operations type role. But we didn't have the luxury of bifurcating or separating out these responsibilities. So we're trying to find people with all of this in the same bucket at the same level of mastery. And so I am very convinced that we are now at the point where we can highlight the parts of this recruiter profile or genotype that is really a human part and which part is going to be the AI part. And so for the research, I don't think there's a human that can do what a machine can do, but I certainly don't think that there's a machine that can preempt the calibration like a human can do. So there's still human involvement there, but we're now using a machine. Marketing is a combination of using generative AI, using the automation tools. So again, I see that as being human driven, but machine executed. Sales is where you really are going to see the human come to shine, right? And that's everything, all those skills I spoke about, communication, collaboration, consultation, coach mentoring, all of that will sit in the sales. And so that will be, going forward, we can hire people that perform and master the sales experience piece, because that is really the human touch. And the analytics, research, and marketing are where we can really deploy the bots. And if this flow works really well, the analytics should be pretty simple or better than we've ever had before. And so I really do feel that there's not only are we learning new technology, but I look forward to looking back in 10 years' time and going, what is the profile of the recruiter that's now coming through? And I think you can start to hire people, somebody that would take a sales rotational program or intern program might well now choose to come into in-house recruiting because it's a form of selling, but it's more on the human side. So just some thoughts for that.
Great. Yeah, I think this was really helpful to again, think not about will my job be replaced by AI, but how will I enhance my job with AI? And in that way, you're really making the tool work for you. And that will mean that you'll be able to bring more value to your organization and really, I think, secure your position. And as a leader, this really means getting at those key objectives that you have around speed and quality and, like you said, working smarter, not harder. So I think at this time, why don't we go ahead and hand this over to Matt Kuvala, who's going to show you a little bit about kind of one approach to AI and recruiting, which is, the Findem Talent Data Cloud. And as we said, it's not, this isn't we're not the only tool obviously out there. AI is being incorporated into most tools. And so part of this is really to get you thinking about what should I be looking for? What should I be expecting and wanting the AI to do for me inside of a recruiting platform tool? So with that, I will hand it over to Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. And also just thank you to everyone else joining on these calls. I feel like we join these webinars, we probably all listen to podcasts, we'll look at some blogs, maybe talk with our cohort or friends, people at work. And the space of AI and artificial intelligence in general is just evolving so quickly, right? I mean, I remember there was this phrase that was coming out, Karen, I think you were just talking about it, how I don't want AI to replace my job. That was 6 to 8 months ago. Now there's a level of acceptance in the market. And now I really appreciate everyone that voted in that poll, because there's a growing concern over, well, how do I not lose focus? How do I not lose my part of myself? How does my team still be the people that they're supposed to be, the people that we hired them to be, right? During the customer or candidate journey also. And this has seemed to be a growing trend. And the word that keeps coming up is acceptance, is that these organizations have accepted that AI is here, it's here to stay. People are talking about it. People are talking about where change management occurs, above, below the line, both. And then we're asking ourselves, what benefit does AI have? So I'd like to have that lens, if it's okay, during this conversation. This isn't a Findem demo. If we want to have a Findem demo, just let us know later. But what this is how people are using generative AI in their current workflow. And as Karen already noted and alluded to, AI is in multiple different tools already. Like, we already know this. What I'd like to have during this conversation is, what benefit does Findem's AI bring to you, and what benefit do other tools AI bring to you? And then that's how we establish where we need to start adapting to. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And if anyone has questions or wants to come off mute, make this collaborative, feel free. This is supposed to be your time completely. And the question that was keep asking is, well, how do I not dilute the candidate experience? How do I keep this personal, right? How do we not have AI replace our jobs? And the short answer is we allow AI to be what AI was intended to be. And that is we allow AI to automate some of those mundane tasks. We allow AI to clean up some of the messy tasks. We allow AI to do all the things that are the time sucks of our teams, and especially as individual contributors also. So then we can then focus on the candidate experience. So then we can personalize messages. So then we can build relationships. And the way that Findem's doing this, at least, and this is just our view, is we built our generative AI because the learning that we had in 2023 was not all job descriptions and projects necessarily equate to what the good or ideal candidate looks like. So we were asking, the first problem that we were attempting to solve was, okay, well, how can we anchor AI into showing what good candidates look like, right? So if I want to look for software engineers with Python experience in the United States, I'm not just going to type that in or just use that as a job description, right? I want to talk in plain words, how and who I'm looking for. And then I'm going to have AI and ChatGPT find these types of people on the internet. And I want them to update the profiles, because I don't want my team going into my greenhouse, my workday, my lever, and updating all these tags and seeing when people move, right? And I just want to know off the bat, are these profiles updated? Who are these people? Let me just have a conversation with the system. And then to Karen's point with the deep learning and our attributes, we also just want to see, okay, how do I find intent, right? So I want to just go ahead and find people. And I just like using the companies because it's very helpful, because when we're in a one-dimensional world, like Grant was talking about, we're relying on one source of data to help our teams identify what good looks like, right? So if I'm telling you that I absolutely need business-to-business experience in this candidate, but they haven't wrote B2B on their resume or LinkedIn, then I need to have my team go out there, research the company, figure out the business models, figure out the competition. Is that the business model that we want to go ahead and align to? As opposed to using these deep learning attributes that is already mapping back the intent. And we already know that this company is business to business, or we already know that this company is software as a service. So we're not relying on that one source of data anymore for people to be populating our searches, so then we can go ahead and contact them, right? So this is the first use case, is using AI to then do some of that mundane task, the building of the searches, the research on the back end. That way we can start focusing on, okay, these are the ideal candidates that we want to go ahead and take a look through. And then once we actually have someone that we do want to take a look through, for an example, now I can start asking some questions, right? Like these are the kind of things that I might want to start asking, coming out of 2022, 2023, some of the feedback that Findem's been receiving is, my team, candidly, they just gotten a little rusty. They're just struggling asking like good interview questions, or like, how do I relate to these candidates? So if I want, the top 5 good interview questions for this candidate, right? Like I can just use AI for this. This is very helpful for ideas. I can go ahead and say, I've already been asking these questions. I haven't been getting some good answers back. And it's not really helping me identify if this candidate's a good fit for our particular company. So I'm using AI in those chances where I've done strategy 1, didn't really work. Strategy 2 didn't really work. Strategy 3, the hiring manager said that this was okay, but then it kind of fluttered out. I ended up having to go back to the search anyway. But now I can start using it, okay, on like strategy 6, 7, 8, I can start doing some A/B testing using the AI helping me become better at my role, and then helping me focus on personalizing each of the relationships that I build during my candidate experience. And this is not just at the individual profile level, but where a lot of customers are seeing value is when we're actually reaching out. So this is one of the biggest critical points when it comes to reaching out, right? Like this is your brand, this is your organization. And whether it's Findem or another tool out there that's using AI, right? This is where we're looking, right? This is one of the first things. I mean, people go into ChatGPT and they're like, write an email for me. This is where people are coming in and saying, okay, yes, write an email for me, but let's actually try to make this feel not cold, right? Like let's heat up this email a little bit. Let's add maybe like a photo or a language, or make this tailored towards them. These are all the things that in the past would have required us to sit down, read candidate profile, which is fine. Go ahead, type up manually, reach out one by one. Now with the power of generative AI, we don't really need to do any of this. And, Grant, not to throw you on the spot here, I know we just walked through a few workflows that I know that your team has already been using, starting searches using generative AI, cross-referencing using attributes, using those enriched profiles, and then reaching out. Are there any particular areas that you feel like I might have missed? I mean, you as the leader has seen AI through multiple lenses now when it comes to actually adopting on the team.
So I think the important distinction, Matt, that the tool is not there. It's not selecting the candidates that should go to interview, right? And so we all know that there's law in especially the tri-state where they're going to be requiring companies to test that the tool doesn't have bias. So I think important to know that this is top of funnel, right? This is what do I need? What are the skills? And then what is the profile of the person based on the type of company, or have they got code that's been published on GitHub or Stack Overflow? Have they written a research paper? And you'll see, I think we might see Matt touch on one of those Findem magics, but you can get really, specific around it. And that's what, in my opinion, that's what we are trying to support with this workshop, is getting to the level of understanding all those attributes takes a lot of work and effort. And we know that when you are in a hurry to hit a hiring target, it's the path to least resistance. We know that LinkedIn has got six criteria attributes and gets you a long list. But you still have to do, to Matt's point, a whole lot of work on validating, right? What kind of company it is, did that IPO, was this person there for the IPO? And so learning these attributes gets you to much deeper insights around the candidates. I think that's
Yeah, it's a good call out. I mean, there's a few things that I think a lot of people take for granted for their first time in the generative AI pool. The first is there is a reason why a lot of these AI companies call their assistants, interns, co-pilots, right? It's not take the wheel. It is treat, the system as your assistant. Treat the AI as your intern. Double check the work. Take a look at what it's populating back. To Grant's point, there is quite a bit of state compliance coming out where we don't want to have AI automatically DQing or accepting candidates. These are all still not replacing the user from using our eyes and seeing like, yeah, Alex and Charlie seem great, right? And we should talk about bias a little bit in here, because this comes up in a lot in AI conversations, is how do you ensure that your artificial intelligence learning model isn't like undergoing bias? It's not learning that I don't want Alex, right? At least from Findem's perspective, this is something that our product team has been working on quite a bit. And we've actually removed from the system to learn why users have DQ'd Alex. And the reason being is because we still want the user to be the reason why someone has been advanced or dispositioned throughout your hiring funnel. So you can use AI as a tool to amplify and move forward, but the AI system is not going to be like recommending you to not move forward with a particular candidate for some reason. And we've been talking a lot on the individual contributor level, but if we level up a little bit from the management perspective, we do have quite a few managers that are now coming in, finding massive amounts of reports, just customizing these reports so then they can see their entire teams, and then just find a simple way that we can go ahead and solidify or actually consolidate this information all into one area. So now if I need to go ahead and escalate information up the chain of command, I can have mass amounts of data that would typically have taken my team about a week to go ahead and consolidate. And then I can say quickly who has the highest reply rate and just ask real-time questions, right? So then I can see that Cindy's got the highest reply rate. I might want to go ahead and talk to Cindy. Cindy, what have you been up to? What have you been doing? Have a one-on-one. Maybe I want to see who's at the bottom of the pool. That way I can help coach and manage my team. So all the time that I was spending collecting this information, I can now dedicate to supporting and coaching my team. So during this workshop, it'll be really interesting to see how others will use and leverage generative AI. And then we'll go ahead and obviously collect a lot of the feedback. But this, like Karen was noting, this is just one way that a lot of our current clients are leveraging the generative AI within our platform.
Yeah, I think it's really important, I sort of at that concept of, the data and the scale and, when you come back to thinking about, well, what is AI going to do for us? I think it's really start to think about like what level of data could you not possibly go through on your own? And I see Brett is sharing in the chat, like he is a Findem customer, and some of you are Findem customers, and some of you are just starting out and have never heard of Findem. So he's sharing one of the prompts that he uses. And we've also, I think the other thing to note about AI is that it's about that data and scale analysis. It's also about learning. So the more you use the transformer, the more you use the queries, it starts to understand what you're looking for better. And so that's knowledge that is, then quickly adhering and becoming part of your system. I think that's also a real distinction between using public tools that are not specific to your organization and using something like Findem or any of the other tools that are internal where, you're gathering and getting the system to learn for your organization, not just for your particular personal use or professional use.
There's one thing I can add. I can say anecdotally, Brett, it's actually really interesting to hear the comments, and we greatly appreciate the insight on that, because when generative AI first came out, I almost felt like you needed a degree in prompt engineering. You needed to learn how to prompt the system. As the models get more and more advanced, and the models that people are using, and we become more and more adapted, it is quite fascinating to see the type of information that you can pull back from a generative AI model. So for those that are experienced prompt engineers now, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those that aren't, highly recommend to just give it a go.
Great. Well, we are coming up on time. And so please, if you have questions, feel free to come off mute or pop it into the chat there. I kind of wanted to bring us back, when we talked about this opening session as a team, one of the things we talked about was really trying to create a little bit of a shared vision for us around, what is AI, what is the potential here? And so kind of what we came up with as a team through our discussions is this concept that I'll share with you. And we can take this over to the LinkedIn chat and have a conversation about it and engage everyone. But I think what we're all trying to do here as leaders and practitioners is really understand that AI is going to help you know the universe of talent that's right for your company. So that's understanding, getting at that data at scale, being able to query it in these incredibly, simple ways that have all this sophistication underneath them. And the reason for using AI is so you can unlock that human potential. And that's both the human potential on that talent team as well as the human potential within your organization, and being able to put together really high performing teams, which is, of course, our goal. And Grant, I may have stolen your thunder on this one.
No, not at all. I think for those that have joined today, you're probably going, okay, so this is not, some of this is familiar to me, some of this is unfamiliar, but, what am I going to get out of this? Your next session is going to be in the tool, and Matt gave you a little bit of an insight as to what the tool can do. We then pull talent insights reports that are based on, so whatever searching criteria and attributes you put in, there's a push of a button that creates a talent insights report that has, ways of identifying, the diversity, the location. I believe in the future, there'll be a connection to a pay company, so there'll be some comp information in there. And then it's just broken out about what schools that these people went to, what companies have they been, how long have they been at typical companies. It's just very rich data that we in TA up until now have had to manually scrub to get to that level, only to walk into an executive who instead of looking at the whole infographic or slide deck, picks up on one data point and goes, so how do I know that this doesn't include candidates I've interviewed before? and all of a sudden you fall over because you know that's not something you're prepared to answer. The good news is this data is so easy, and live you can sit there. And if somebody asks that question, like Matt used the prompt for questions, you can answer and so become much more real time with your business, as opposed to huge delay producing the data, only to get queries on the data, to then take another equal amount of time in trying to figure out where the error was or the rationale, and then going back. And so we will build business confidence with tools like this around speed, around intelligence, and around quality. And I think there's always cost that comes into play. Think about all the tools you're using, your sources, your sourcing tools, your CRM, your talent insights. When you add that all together, you can see that putting it into one system and infrastructure is far more advantageous.
Wonderful. Yeah. I'm inspired. I hope people are inspired. I hope it's not too daunting. I know we shared a lot of information with you. As Grant said, some of it is maybe familiar, and really our goal here is to all move the whole industry forward. So I think that's what we're here to do. Just in terms of next steps, look for an email from me either tomorrow or Monday. And we'll have a lot of links in there for you, links to resources we think might be useful, as well as next steps. The next Thursday is our hands-on practitioners session, and look for emails, and Lauren will be able to help you with this. But you'll be able to get your Findem account and a Findem Academy account with some training and videos to get started with. And then the following week on the 8th is our leaders discussion. And that's where we will open it up. We will expect you to participate. We'll be looking to you for answers, as well as sharing our own thoughts and frameworks around responsible AI, as well as use cases. And then finally, we'll come back together for a power user panel. And so we think this is a great opportunity to just start listening to what others have done and how they're adapting to this change. And let me just show you, I think that's it for today, but I did just want to show you and put up the LinkedIn group. So if you didn't catch that in the chat, you can just type that crazy URL and please go there, introduce yourself. Let's have this conversation, between sessions as well as during the sessions. Great. So
thanks, Karen. And thanks, Matt and Lauren, and all of you that have attended, right? You're taking time out of your busy day to better yourself. And so we respect that, and we look forward to helping you get to that next level of enabled recruiting, right? That will be differentiated to others that are maybe not adopting it as quickly. So I saw a couple of comments, Lance. I'm glad your head's full. I feel value, right, for the 1 hour. But let's not delay any further and finish on time.
thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.